Ever wonder what happened when American engineers got a little too creative with their diesel designs? From luxury cabs with radios and heaters decades before their time to twin-engine monsters that could spin on a dime, the golden age of American tractor innovation produced some truly wild machines. Today, we're diving into 10 of the most bizarre diesel tractors that rolled off American assembly lines. Machines so unusual, they changed the industry forever. 10. Minneapolis Moline G6. Starting off our countdown at number 10 is the Minneapolis Moline G6 from 1959. Now, Minneapolis Moline had a reputation for thinking outside the box, but the G6 took things to another level. This was their flagship heavyweight tractor, and the engineers decided to get fancy with the name, using Roman numerals for the 6 in G6. Apparently, that went right over most farmers' heads, but what they did understand was raw power. The G6 packed a massive 425.5 cubic inch diesel engine that made it one of the most powerful standard tread tractors of its era. This beast weighed in at over 8,000 pounds and was built specifically for the wheat fields of the northern plains and southern Canada. Minneapolis Moline positioned it as a wheatland tractor with that tall, upright stance typical of fixed tread machines designed for amber waves of grain. The engine was actually based on their gasoline 425 that dated back to 1938, but converted to diesel with the Lenova cell technology. With 4 main bearings supporting that massive crankshaft, this engine had staying power running virtually unchanged from 1953 to 1971. What made the G6 particularly bizarre was its sheer size combined with Minneapolis Moline's prairie gold paint scheme. Production ran from 1959 to 1962 before it evolved into the G704. When White Motor Corporation swept up Minneapolis Moline in 1963, they kept the basic design alive through various iterations, with the G6's legacy ultimately living on as the G1350, which survived until 1972. The Minneapolis Moline name itself only lasted until 1974, making these prairie gold giants increasingly rare finds today. For farmers who needed serious pulling power for large implements, the G6 delivered in spades, helping establish Minneapolis Moline's reputation for building some of the toughest tractors in the business. 9. Euclid TC12. Coming in at number 9 is perhaps the most radical departure from conventional crawler design ever attempted, the Euclid TC12. When General Motors decided to take on Caterpillar in 1955, they didn't just build a bigger crawler, they completely reimagined what a crawler could be. The TC12 wasn't just one tractor, it was essentially 2 tractors joined at the hip, literally. This monster featured twin GM 671 Detroit diesel engines, each rated at 194 horsepower, giving it a combined 388 horses under the hood. That made it the most powerful crawler tractor in the world at its introduction. But here's where it gets really wild. Each engine powered its own track through separate Allison Torque-Matic transmissions. The tractor was split longitudinally down the middle, with each half able to oscillate independently over rough terrain. You could actually unbolt the 2 halves for transport. Even crazier, you could counter-rotate the tracks to spin this 92,000-pound behemoth on its own axis like a tank. GM even assigned automotive stylist Charles Jordan to the project, the same guy who later became Cadillac's chief designer. The result was a crawler that looked like it came from the future. The radiators were positioned behind the operator, blowing dust away instead of into their face, a simple but brilliant innovation. The TC12 required 2 sets of controls and gauges, making it look more like an airplane cockpit than a tractor cab. Despite its innovations, the complexity proved to be its downfall. Maintenance costs were astronomical if you didn't keep up with it religiously. Only about 900 units were built before production ended in 1974 under the Terex name. Today, finding a restored TC12 is like finding buried treasure. Before we move on to the next one in the list, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us, thanks to all of you who do. 8. Case 500 Diesel. Number 8 takes us to Racine, Wisconsin, where Case made history in 1953 with their Model 500, their first big diesel tractor. This wasn't just another diesel conversion, it was Case throwing their hat into the diesel ring with authority. After years of watching International Harvester and others gain ground with compression ignition, Case engineers developed something special. The heart of the 500 was a 6-cylinder diesel engine with a 4-inch bore and 5-inch stroke, displacing 377 cubic inches. Using Lenovacell indirect injection technology licensed from Germany, this engine cranked out 56 horsepower at the drawbar and an impressive 411 pound-feet of torque. To put that in perspective, a John Deere 50 tested around the same time made less than half that torque. The 500 was also one of the very first tractors to feature power steering, a luxury that wouldn't become common for another decade. Case built fewer than 6,000 of these tractors between 1953 and 1957, making them relatively rare today. They even created special show tractors painted white with chrome accessories, called the Queen of the Flambeau Fleet, which were paraded through Racine with female drivers to promote the new diesel technology. The 500 proved that Case could compete with anyone in the diesel market. Its success led directly to the development of the 600 series and established diesel technology as a cornerstone of Case engineering. The basic engine design lived on through numerous enlargements and improvements, eventually becoming the legendary Case 504 diesel that would set fuel economy records lasting well into the 1980s. For many Midwest farmers, the 500 was their first taste of diesel power, and it converted them for life. 7. John Deere Model R. Lucky number 7 is the John Deere Model R, the tractor that finally brought the green machines into the diesel age in 1949. After more than 10 years of development and testing, Deere engineers created something that would change their company forever. The Model R wasn't just Deere's first diesel, it was the end of an era as the last of their famous lettered series tractors. The R featured a massive 2-cylinder horizontal diesel engine displacing 416 cubic inches with a 5.75-inch bore and 8-inch stroke. But here's what made it bizarre, it actually had 2 engines. The main diesel was started by a separate 2-cylinder gasoline pony engine that was horizontally opposed, burning gas to warm up the big diesel. This wasn't just a convenience feature, it was revolutionary. Other diesel tractors required operators to stand on the ground manually cranking a flywheel. The Model R operator could start it from the seat by pulling a lever. The pony engine's cooling system was connected to the main engine, allowing it to preheat the diesel block and head, making cold weather starting reliable even in sub-zero conditions. At around 51 horsepower, it was the most powerful tractor Deere had ever built, marketed as king of the heavyweights. It was also the first Deere with a live power takeoff with its own clutch, allowing independent control of the PTO. The massive crankshaft alone weighed 207 pounds. Despite selling for $3,700 in 1949, Deere sold over 21,000 units before production ended in 1954. The R set an all-time fuel economy record at Nebraska tests and established John Deere as a serious player in the diesel game. That distinctive 2-cylinder diesel sound would become legendary among farmers, earning these tractors the nickname Johnny Poppers. 6. Massey Harris 55 Diesel. At number 6, we've got the Massey Harris 55 Diesel, a Canadian-built powerhouse that brought serious muscle to North American wheat fields starting in 1949. This wasn't your typical farm tractor. The 55 was built specifically for the vast grain operations of the Northern Plains, and it brought some unusual engineering to the table. The 55 diesel was powered by a unique engine arrangement, a Continental-built JD 382 diesel that Massey Harris marketed as their own. This 382 cubic inch inline 6-cylinder engine was quite advanced for its time, featuring overhead valves and producing around 60 horsepower at the PTO. What made it bizarre was its fuel system, using both APE or PSB injection pumps depending on production year, and its unusual starting system that sometimes proved temperamental in cold weather. The engine would later grow to 403 cubic inches and power everything from case dozers to industrial generators. Massey Harris built the 55 in several configurations, including the Western and Riceland models with massive tires for specific soil conditions. The Western model featured an extended platform and could be ordered with either hand or foot clutch, though some tractors mysteriously came with both installed. The 55 established itself as a 4x5 plow tractor, though in tough conditions, it could struggle with 4 bottoms. Production ended in 1955 when it was replaced by the 555, which added power steering and chrome trim. The Massey Harris name would disappear by 1958 when the company merged with Ferguson, but farmers who ran these big diesels never forgot their pulling power. Today, finding a 55 in good condition is like striking gold, especially the rare high-altitude versions built for mountain farming. 5. International Harvester TD12. Halfway through our list at number 5 is the International Harvester TD24, a machine so massive it earned the nickname Big Red. When International introduced this crawler in 1947, it temporarily claimed the title of world's largest and most powerful tractor, and it backed up that claim with some seriously innovative engineering. The TD24 was powered by International's new D1091 diesel engine, an inline 6-cylinder monster displacing 1,091 cubic inches and producing 180 horsepower at 1,375 revolutions per minute. Like many diesels of the era, it used a gasoline starting system where the engine started on gas and converted to diesel once warmed up. But what really set the TD24 apart was its revolutionary transmission design. It featured a 4-speed synchromesh main transmission for on-the-go shifting, plus a separate forward and reverse unit for fast cycling during dozer work. The real innovation was the Planet Power steering system, with 2-speed planetary gears in each track controlled by steering levers, giving 8 forward and 8 reverse speeds total. Weighing in at about 40,000 pounds with a blade, the TD24 was built like a battleship. International initially sourced attachments from companies like Bucyrus Erie and Isaacson before acquiring these companies in the early 1950s. The TD24 found extensive use in logging operations in the Pacific Northwest and was instrumental in building much of America's post-war infrastructure. By 1955, International boosted engine speed to produce 190 horsepower, and by 1958, they squeezed out 202 horses. Production ended in 1959 after about 12 years, but many TD24S soldiered on for decades in logging and construction. Their reputation for durability made them legends in the heavy equipment world. 4. Allis Chalmers HD19. Number 4 brings us the Allis Chalmers HD19, a crawler that proved orange could be just as tough as any other color in the construction world. Introduced in 1947, the HD19 was Allis Chalmers' answer to the big Caterpillars and International crawlers dominating the market, and they brought some unique features to the fight. The HD19 was powered by a General Motors 671 diesel engine, the same basic power plant used in everything from tanks to generators during World War II. This 2-cycle supercharged diesel cranked out 143 horsepower and had a distinctive sound thanks to its Roots-type blower. The engine's widespread military use meant parts were plentiful and mechanics everywhere knew how to fix them. Allis Chalmers didn't produce their own diesel at the time, so partnering with GM gave them instant credibility in the diesel market. What made the HD19 particularly interesting was its role in the Lend-Lease program. Hundreds were shipped to England during and after World War II, where they were used for airfield construction and land reclamation to increase agricultural production. Many British farmers got their first taste of crawler power from these orange machines. The HD19 featured Allis Chalmers' famous positive seal bearings for track rollers and idler wheels that were permanently lubricated, requiring no grease fittings, a major maintenance advantage. The torque converter drive option made it easier to operate than purely mechanical competitors. Production continued into the early 1950s when it was replaced by the HD21. Today, restored HD19S are prized by collectors, especially those with wartime history. They represent a unique chapter in both agricultural and military equipment history. 3. Oliver Cletrac HGR. Coming in at number 3 is one of the most unusual crawlers ever built, the Oliver Cletrac HGR from 1945.
This little crawler was decades ahead of its time, featuring rubber tracks when everyone else was still running steel. Oliver took their popular HG agricultural crawler and did something nobody thought would work. They fitted it with rubber track belts. The HGR was powered by a Hercules 9K 3 gasoline engine producing about 22 horsepower. While that doesn't sound like much, the tractor only weighed about 3,500 pounds, giving it an excellent power-to-weight ratio. The rubber tracks were designed for indoor use in factories and warehouses where steel tracks would damage floors. This was revolutionary thinking in 1945. The tracks worked beautifully on smooth surfaces, allowing the HGR to operate almost silently compared to steel-tracked machines. It could work inside food processing plants, textile mills, and aircraft factories without tearing up expensive flooring. Unfortunately, the rubber track technology wasn't quite ready for prime time in agricultural applications. When farmers tried using HGRs in fields, the rubber tracks wore out quickly on rocks and rough ground. Most HGRs were eventually converted back to steel tracks and became regular HG models. Today, only 2 known HGRs survive with their original rubber tracks, making them among the rarest tractors in existence. It would be another 40 years before Caterpillar successfully introduced rubber tracks on the Challenger series. Oliver was simply too far ahead of the curve. The Cletrac division was eventually absorbed into White's empire, but their innovative spirit lived on. 2. Caterpillar Diesel 60. Our runner-up at number 2 is the Caterpillar Diesel 60, the tractor that started the diesel revolution in America. When Caterpillar introduced this machine in 1931, they didn't just build another tractor, they changed the entire industry forever. This was the first commercially successful diesel-powered track-type tractor, and it set standards that still influence equipment design today. The Diesel 60 was based on the proven gasoline-powered 60 crawler that had been in production since 1925, but fitted with Caterpillar's new DD9900 diesel engine, a 4-cylinder unit displacing 1,090 cubic inches and producing approximately 77 horsepower. This wasn't a ground-up redesign, but rather a brilliant adaptation of existing technology. Development had cost over $1 million Depression-era dollars, a staggering sum that could have bankrupted the company if it failed. The engine featured Caterpillar's innovative pony engine starting system, a small 2-cylinder gasoline engine that warmed and cranked the main diesel. This system was so successful it remained standard on Cat diesels for 35 years. The diesel engine proved its worth immediately with incredible fuel efficiency and pulling power that left gasoline tractors in the dust. Within 2 years of introduction, Caterpillar's diesel production exceeded all other diesel manufacturers in the United States combined. The Diesel 60 could work all day on fuel that would only run a gas tractor for a few hours. It powered everything from the Hoover Dam construction to the King Albert Canal in Belgium. The success led Caterpillar to develop an entire line of diesel crawlers, the RD series, which possibly stood for Road District, as these machines were extensively used maintaining America's growing road network. By establishing diesel as the preferred power source for heavy equipment, the Diesel 60 didn't just change Caterpillar. It changed how the world moved Earth. Even the paint changed, as Caterpillar switched from battleship gray to highway yellow in 1931, the same year the Diesel 60 debuted. 1. LeTourneau Tournapull. And claiming the #1 spot for the most bizarre diesel tractor you've probably never heard of is R.G. LeTourneau's revolutionary Tournapull from 1950. This wasn't just a tractor, it was a complete reimagining of what earth-moving equipment could be. When LeTourneau couldn't convince Caterpillar to build his radical design, he said to hell with it and built it himself, creating a machine so far ahead of its time that it made conventional tractors look like horse-drawn plows. The Tournapull was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Picture this, a massive diesel engine jutting out in front of 2 gigantic rubber-tired drive wheels, with the operator perched on top like he was riding some kind of mechanical bull. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. It used diesel-electric drive, just like a locomotive. The diesel engine powered a generator that sent electricity to individual motors mounted inside each wheel hub. This wasn't hydraulics or mechanical drive. This was space-age technology in 1950. Every control was either an electric push button or switch, no levers, no manual hydraulics. Just flip a switch and watch this beast move. When hitched to a LeTourneau carryall scraper, the Tournapull could haul a full load at 15 miles per hour and return empty at 20, speeds that left traditional crawler-pulled scrapers eating dust. The electric wheel motors gave it incredible traction and eliminated the need for complex transmissions, drive shafts, and differentials. The military loved them as aircraft tugs, and contractors discovered they could move more dirt in a day than they'd previously moved in a week. LeTourneau's electric wheel technology was so advanced that it powered everything from Arctic snow trains to the massive LT360 scraper with 8 electric wheels and 5,080 total horsepower. The Tournapull proved that sometimes the most bizarre ideas are simply ahead of their time. LeTourneau literally changed how the world moved Earth, and his diesel-electric technology influenced everything from mining equipment to modern hybrid vehicles. Well, there you have it, folks. 10 of the most bizarre diesel tractors ever to roll out of American factories. From the luxury of the UDLX to the raw power of the TC12, these machines pushed boundaries and challenged conventions. Some succeeded, some failed, but all of them left their mark on agricultural history. These tractors remind us that American innovation has always been about thinking big and taking risks. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into forgotten iron. And hey, let us know in the comments if you've ever seen any of these rare beasts in person. Until next time, keep those diesels running.